I made a community post about it the other day, but I know not a lot of people tend to look at that, so if you were concerned at all about the fact that I just kind of stopped uploading videos for a bit and there wasn't a main video last weekend, don't worry, I was okay. It was just due to an unexpected lack of access to my recording microphone, so I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. You're going to be fine. I'm not going anywhere. I know stuff like what I'm doing is needed now more than ever, so I'm going to do my best to not have any interruptions in getting any of my content out for the foreseeable future. I wish I could tell you that, oh yes, I'll be able to upload even more often, get even more content out to you, but I may be safely moved back home from my dorm, but I do still have classes, so that's still going to be taking up the majority of my time. I do kind of want to tell the story about why I didn't have my mic for one weekend, so there's a time code on screen if you want to skip it and get into the actual meat of the video. Anyway, for reference, if you're watching this far in the future, I upload the main series videos on my channel, which are the Xeno series discussion videos on Sundays, and this is the March 22nd, 2020 video. I skipped March 15th, and the last one I uploaded was the Shulk and Egg Ale thing on March 8th. So, how did all of this happen? Well, initially, the week of March 9th through March 13th was going to be spring break, and I was going to go home from college. So, I left Friday the 6th and was planning on going back Saturday the 14th. Now, you're noticing there's a weekend where I'd be home there, and yeah, no big deal. I pre-record stuff whenever something like this happens, and just bring all the video files I need on an external hard drive, and I use a laptop for everything, so I could just edit it there as long as I pre-record the audio. The only issue is, at the beginning of that week, like I think Monday or Tuesday, my computer died, so I had to bring it to the on-campus laptop repair center, which, no big deal, covered by warranty. It was a school-issue laptop. They even gave me a loaner laptop that was the exact same model. Most of the software I use is freeware. I got copied most of my files over, like my schoolwork stuff, from the hard drive from my normal computer, and all my video stuff is on external drives, so everything's fine. Even able to get my editing software on there. I was able to record, edit, and upload for patrons the Shulk Egg Ale video days early before I even went home. But, of course, first 2 weeks of March 2020, that is when, at least in the US, people started really taking coronavirus seriously and put in major things in an attempt to try and stop the spread, including colleges canceling classes and stuff. So, I go home for spring break. I pre-recorded a bunch of other stuff, including the Xenogears recap that was also uploaded over the last couple weeks, and a bunch of second channel stuff. That's fine. Bring the hard drives home. I can edit it. There we go. Everything's okay. Since I was going back Saturday, I'd still have time to record, edit, and upload a video for that Sunday, as long as I'd written the script over the week I was home, which was going to be fine. No big deal. I had basically no schoolwork. Then, of course, in the middle of the week, I get a notification. Alright, classes are going to start right up after spring break as originally planned, but they're going to be online for 2 weeks. So I figure, alright, I only packed for 1 week home anyway, so it's not a selfish, oh, I just want to make videos thing for me to want to go back the same time. And I'd be okay there. Then, like, 2 days later, yeah, we're going online for the rest of the semester. Be sure to move out of your dorms if you're living on campus by March 20th. So, alright. The original plan was then going to be, instead of just me going back, my parents will come with me and we'll move me out of my dorm the same weekend, normally, exactly as we were planning to. And then we realized, wait, the computer repair center is closed on weekends. And that's going to be the last time I'm going to be on campus until, like, August, when the next semester starts. So, I need my computer back. So, it ended up, we went up on Tuesday instead of Saturday, and I didn't have access to my microphone until, like, the following day once I got back home. So, there we go. Didn't have my microphone because of several different reasons, but I'm completely moved back home now. Everything's okay for the time being. Back to the main topic of the video, though. I think it's pretty clear to see that right now we're living through something that's going to become a major historical event in the future. And it had me thinking of just the idea of living through history as it happens, and how I'm going to explain this to people in the future who weren't alive for this kind of thing happening. Like, I don't know if I'm going to have kids, but just say, how will I explain what it was like living through this pandemic to my children in the future? And it kind of led me to think of, alright, what other similar major historical events was I not really around for? And the thing that I can draw the most comparisons in terms of being relatively recent, at the beginning of a decade, and probably going to influence how the United States operates for the rest of the decade, would be the September 11th attacks. Now, I'm 21, I just turned 21 a couple weeks ago, so I was alive for 9/11, but I was 2. I was not old enough to personally remember things. I have plenty of anecdotes, though. My family was on vacation when it happened in Arizona. I live in New Jersey, so my parents had to drive back across the country, and I know that impacted them greatly, but I don't feel that big of a connection as they do, because I remember flashes of that entire trip, and what they told me secondhand. While now, for this current pandemic, I'm an adult remembering things basically as it happens, and I'll have a much clearer picture and be able to explain in the future to someone who wasn't alive for it exactly what life was like and what effect it had on people. So, tying this back to Xenoblade X, because this is a Xenoblade video, by the way, I was thinking about the one Xeno game that takes place in a year that a lot of us will live to see. Xenoblade Chronicles X in the year 2054. This will have spoilers for that game, by the way. In what way would the characters in that game know about events that are happening right now in 2020? Well, for most of them, they'll only know this from the internet, obviously, but from accounts from people who are alive at the time. Because the vast majority of Xenoblade X characters are too young to have been born as of the year 2020. I'm going to go into one quick year age discrepancy thing because of mimeosomes. Basically, Earth was destroyed in 2054, but the game itself picks up 2 years later when the white whale crashes on Mira, and it's at that time that we know the characters' ages. I'm going to assume that because a lot of people were in stasis and everyone's been in mimeosomes for 2 years anyway, that they didn't add those 2 years to their age. So the game takes place in 2056, but no one on the white whale added the 2 years they were in mimeosomes to their actual age. So while someone who's young like Lynn might be maturing emotionally or through her experiences, she's not in a biological body, so she wouldn't have like the brain maturity thing that comes from going from 13 to 15 or 11 to 13, however you think about it. So I'm sort of thinking it that way. So basically, I'm going to treat everyone's ages when the game takes place as their ages in 2054. This is going to become relevant when I talk about birth years a bit later. So Elma shows up in about 2024. We know it's 30 years before Earth is destroyed, or 30 years before the game takes place. It's not really clear on that, so somewhere roughly around the year 2025 is when Elma shows up and brings her alien stuff and ushers in a brand new wave of technology. Most of the party members in X are somewhere in their 20s. X actually has a very high average age for a JRPG party of all humans, but I guess that's pretty fitting for the one Xenoblade game most influenced by Xenosaga, since that also had several characters that are older than you would expect a JRPG character to be who isn't like the old mentor type. Like, Shion's in her 20s, Jin Uzuki is in his early 30s, so, whoa, that's a big deal. But then we've got, like, 10 people in their 20s. Lau is 31, and Fry and Doug are both 30, but it's not like they would remember the world before Elma showed up and ushered in her new revolution of tech. So, most of the party in this game is comprised of an entire generation who grew up during or after this new revolution in technology, and wouldn't really have a reference point of the world before that to compare with what it was like beforehand. this is, again, sort of like my experiences, because I very barely have experience in a world without the internet being as prevalent as it is today. This might partially just be because my parents were sort of slow adopters when it came to the internet, but, like, I'm old enough where my first phone was not a smartphone, so I think that's the best way I could put it. I remember not before the internet was a thing a lot of people had in their household, but before the internet was a thing that you constantly had in your pocket at all times. So, someone only a few years younger than me, say I'm a junior in college, someone who's a junior in high school, probably wouldn't know what that was like at all, and I think that's really interesting, especially in a world where technology is advancing as quickly as it is today. And then there's the idea that something happens that jumpstarts it going to a whole new level in just a few years. Even without alien intervention, the world has already been changing at a much faster pace the past couple centuries compared to pretty much the rest of recorded human history, and it's interesting largely because of things that are within one human's lifespan that you wouldn't really think about. The big thing that I always think about is Samuel James Seymour, who was 5 years old when he was a witness to the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, and he lived to be 96 years old, which was old enough to appear on national television in 1956 to describe the fact that he was a witness to Lincoln's assassination. So that's kind of insane. There's the fact that people who grew up and lived through World War II were also there for the rise of the internet. That's within one lifetime. And in the Xenoblade X universe, it's entirely possible for someone who's in their 90s by the time the game starts to have been alive for and remember both the original Apollo 11 moon landing and humanity's first venture into interstellar space with the ARC ships. Which is kind of funny because 2024 is the tentative year for NASA's first mission to put humans back on the moon since 1972. So it's like, yeah, we got back to the moon with modern technology, we're about to push forward to Mars, longer stays in space, all that kind of stuff. And then Elma shows up and like, hey, you want to go faster than light? So that's really interesting to think about, where most of the characters grew up either alongside the maturation of Elma's new technologies or after they were already just a mainstay in an accepted fact of society. And I think that's really interesting, and depending on how old you are, you could probably easily compare and contrast that to something you grew up alongside. I guess I would say, for me, it would be social media, and not just the internet as a whole, because that definitely existed even before I was born. So that's really interesting. But what about the characters who have been born already in 2020? The first ones you're probably thinking of are the big three of New Los Angeles, and in fact, all three of them are old enough to have been born in the present day. So again, if we assume that 2056 age is the same as 2054 age just because of mimiosomes, Vandam is 48 when the game takes place, which would put his birth year at around 2006 and make him approximately 14 in the present day. Nagi is 57 when the game takes place, which would put his birth date at around 1997 and make him about 23 today. So Nagi is a couple years older than me, and good lord, I don't know if we're gonna be out in space when the actual 2056 happens, but I hope I age half as gracefully as that man did, because wow. And Maurice Chosan is the oldest one, being 65 during the game, which would put his birth date at around 1989, and would make him roughly 31 years old today. So assuming he's actually a career politician, he's probably getting into his first significant elected office around now or something, I don't know. The one party member besides Nagi who has been born, besides L, maybe, we don't know what his age is actually Bose, which I'm kind of surprised about. I thought he was a roughly Lau's age, so early 30s, but no, he's actually 54 when the game takes place, which, assuming 2054 age is 2056 age, that's a really easy subtraction to do. His birth date would be around 2000, which would make him roughly 20 today, so Bose is a little bit younger than me, and Nagi is a little bit older than me. The single oldest human character that I remember, at least, is not any of those, though. It is actually Leland Cole, the NPC from Arena's one Affinity mission, where The party gets confused as to which of the two guys is the father and which is the son because they look about the same age, and it turns out the slightly younger looking one is in fact the father because he's an old guy who wanted to be put in a younger mimeosome so he could do more work. He is 78 when the game takes place, which would put his birth date at around 1976 and make him about 44 years old today. And then there's also, what video games would the big three of New Los Angeles have grown up around? Because they're all pretty far apart for people who are this close working together. I mean, it makes sense, everyone's adults there, but they're effectively from 3 different decades. So, Shosan would be a kid right during the time of the original Pokemania when Red and Blue first released in the West. So, I don't know if he would have been a Pokemon kid, but he would have grown up at exactly the right time for that. Nagi, he was 100% a Minecraft kid. And here's the most cursed one. Vandam is exactly the right age to be a Fortnite kid in the present day and age. I don't know about you, but I'm fairly certain that he brought a very old Eat, Sleep, Fortnite, Repeat shirt with him to Mira and still sleeps with it on till this very day. People in this age range and above would be the people who would know the world both before and after the tech boom. Although, keep in mind, Elma came and went to world leaders and convinced them the alien threat was real, so Vandam was definitely too young. Nagi would probably be too young. Out of the big three, Shosan is the only one who has a non-zero chance of actually getting this information about Elma and the alien threat at the time she first arrived. The other two are too young and would definitely have to take some time, get older, and get important positions before they would know, so that's a distinction. But from youngest to oldest, Vandam would have grown up in the current internet age and be coming of age just as the new tech boom from Elma started. Nagi would be roughly in the same boat as me, being just on the tail end of getting to watch the internet explode and take over the world, and then see that get overturned like a decade and a half later, right after getting out of college, because Elma's tech starts showing up and doing its thing. And then Shosan and Leland Cole would go back even further than that, seeing the internet start basically from the beginning, and Leland would have gone from the middle of the Cold War through the modern day, and then beyond to Elma technology and interstellar exploration, which is a pretty big jump and pretty interesting. I don't really have a big important point about this, I just think it's cool to think about how all this stuff just puts human life and all that sort of stuff into perspective. Maybe if you're looking to start a family in the coming decade, you'll end up tapping into your love of Xenoblade X, and if you have a kid in the year where one of the characters might have been born, and you'll just name the kid after the character, and then because of that they'll grow up to be similar to that actual character, even if Elma never shows up and none of the events in the game actually happen. I don't know where I'm going with this. Maybe in 2024, when Elma is supposed to arrive, I'll make a video exploring what the game predicts the next 30 years will be like, and what it thought would happen in the years between when it was written and Elma's arrival, since that shouldn't be changed. But that is all for now. Thank you so much for watching this video, as always. This was a very, very scattershot thing. I kind of just wrote a bunch of bullet points and made something out of it, largely because I was extremely stressed about the whole move out thing, but I'm good now. Next video, I'm not sure what it's going to be on. I might make another X video just to get that Xenoblade 1 out of my mind until the remake comes out. And because, you know, I make a lot of 2 videos, so there's that. But yeah, stick around. I'm not going anywhere. I'm cool. This is going to be cool. We're going to be cool. Xenoblade is cool. Good night.